What's going on, Badger fans? Welcome to a victory edition of the Therapy Show, the reaction show. I got Justin with me. Great win. Wisconsin owns little brother. That's always a good time. Wisconsin runs the state. Big win for the Badgers. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every day. Thank you for making this one of your first listens every single day. Really do appreciate it. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with every winning $5 money line bet. That's $150. If your team wins, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Justin, it's a win. It's a win. We got the therapy session.
It is a win. And on today's show, we'll also apparently be discussing beating Nebraska, a tournament preview, and a national title.
Oh, wow. That is an outdated. Listen, y'all, we can talk about that. Nebraska.
No. Let's get locked in on this. Listen, Rajiv and I on Wednesday talked about how this stretch of basketball is going to be played. And I think there are some things with this now, and you're right. You and I talked about this before we came in. This team can be inconsistent. What I do see with this team that I like is that offensively, there's really every spot on the floor that they can score. Like every player that they have out there is capable of getting you double digits in the offensive side, which not everyone can do. Like we saw that with Marquette, where they had certain players that they were trying to hunt shots for, and they weren't as comfortable with being stuck with a certain guy having the ball. Wisconsin's got multiple guys like that, and they also have guys off the bench that they feel comfortable with that. Like they feel if Blackwell takes 10 shots, I don't think they have a problem with that. If Connor were to come in and take 10 shots, I don't think they have a problem with that. I mean, the one guy out of their depth who you might look at and say that with, Winter maybe, that they'd be like, if he's pumping up shots, it might be uncomfortable for them to have him doing it, given that he hasn't shown
more, obviously.
Yes, but that's a given. I mean, we know that at this point, but he's not expected to. But yeah, this was an impressive win.
Yeah,
especially showing the grit when the lead shrank, because Marquette came out playing their butts off in the second half, and they held it together. And I said this, I was talking to Gard Fickle on Twitter a little bit, and I said, I like Chucky. I'm like, this is what I like to call an Iceman game, where the goal in the second half is you just lean on the other team and you kneel on them, and you force them to get desperate and make mistakes. And that's kind of what we do with Marquette a little bit. Like you keep pushing on them and make them feel like that pressure's starting to build, like we have to make something happen. And that's when you start getting easy things happening for you offensively. And Chucky's a perfect guard for that because he doesn't turn the ball over.
I mean, this is a great win, right? Mm-hmm. This is the number 3 team in the country. And you were in control for, I would say, 30 of the 40 minutes. There was about a 10-minute stretch where it was kind of
start the second half. Yep.
Start the second half till about that 10-minute mark where you're like, oh, this is going to be a dogfight.
They got to get their feet under them. Yep.
That last part of the second half and that whole first half, I thought you took control. You were really in command of the tempo of the game. I want to point out what I thought was one of the keys of the game was the offensive rebounding. Crowl and Wall each had 4. I mean, we dominated the second chance points. We dominated the glass. Gilmore had a couple. Klesmit had a couple big ones in the second half. Because if you look at shooting percentages in this game, they're basically equal. Both teams shot relatively poorly from 3. Yeah. But all the hustle stuff, right, the second chance points, getting to the line, Wisconsin dominated that. We just played a lot harder than they did, I thought, from the jump, outside of a little stretch there. That's a credit to this team and Greg Gard. When this team plays hard, and there's a comment in here from Zesty Matchup, this team is special when locked in. I thought they were locked in, and they're really good when they're locked in defensively.
Yeah. They don't give away possessions, and especially in the offensive side, like they find a way to get it done. This team, they were plus 1.1 points per possession in this game against a really good defensive team in Marquette. Like they hammered them in the first half. They said at the halftime on the broadcast that this was the most points that Marquette had given up all season in a half of basketball. We dropped 46. And they've already played Purdue. They've already played Michigan State, I believe. So they've played some really good teams, and we kind of took the hammer to them.
Yeah, and it was good. How about Klesmit in the first half? I mean, I know that's something that we've talked about a ton. Like Klesmit has to be more aggressive multiple times this year. He's barely scored. Now
he likes games like this. Like there's games where he just likes to come out there and kind of get into it with the other team, and this is one of those.
It's hilarious that he was 5 of 10 from 3, and basically didn't score in the second half. Right, hit 21 in the first half, but that's fine. Like if you scored 21 points is 21 points, and he came out, set the tone, and then he had a couple big hustle plays down the stretch. Another thing that I thought was interesting was I thought there was some really, especially in that first half, and again a little bit down in the stretch, Justin. I thought their offense did a great job of spreading it out, hitting the post, and then just letting really Wall and Crowl work. And I thought those two guys had a great game distributing, but also when they needed to be aggressive. They were like Wall was aggressive when he needed to be, but he didn't force things.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about that when the lead shrank, and I said touch the post. Like you have the size advantage on Marquette. Beat them up. That's where you're going to get the nice open looks from the outside, or it's going to give you guys opportunities to drive. Because when that guy starts kind of, diving down on the post touch, you're going to get an opportunity to make cuts. So do it because you can't. Basically, no team in college basketball is going to be able to single cover those guys. They're crafty enough around them. You might be able to with Crowl if you have a really good.
There's teams that will muscle up on Crowl.
Yes, but Wall is a guy who's going to beat up most power forwards in the post. Like he's just capable. He's crafty enough down there to cause problems, and you're going to have to send help at him because I don't think he's always great when you double on him. Like he makes some bad decisions at times. So that's probably in the book to go after him. So if you can do that and he's a willing passer out of it, like last year, that was when the book was written on him. This year, if he just does the simple move, the easy, smart move, they're going to get easy plays out of this. And that's something they didn't have last year. And they just have some dudes now that can actually make something happen. Storr is capable of just abusing guys to a point. Like there's NBA athleticism there. There's a lot of fine tuning that needs to be done on him to get him to that level.
Both of those points are correct. Dennis Schimmel says 24-28 from the free throw line. Impressive. They went to line that much. Critical that they made them. Most impressive. Tyler Wall was, I think, 4 of 5. I don't have the box score in front of me, but I know he missed his last one. But up to that point, maybe 5 of 6. But really good. I mean, that's the thing too. If you continue to go to those dudes in the post, Crowl and Wall, they're going to get fouled, and then if they don't shoot free throws, it's almost turnovers. Oh yeah, they were showing the Marquette graphic for foul trouble. They had like the entire starting 5 had 3 fouls at one point. So I want to take a quick break, but then I kind of want to get into who's the real Badgers, Justin, and talk about that a little bit. I know you and I disagree a little bit, but you have the Providence game, you have the Virginia game, you have the Robert Morris game that was close. Let's talk about that a little bit coming up. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show over at FanDuel. And by the way, if you hear noise in the background, my 4-year-old son is running around stealing candy, and that's what that is. But let's talk about our sponsor over at FanDuel. FanDuel is the number one place to do all your sports betting, sports needs, parlays, futures. I know I've been pushing that Niners future Super Bowl. Eventually, one of my teams will win it all, and I'll make some money. A great game today. I know some of you guys were betting on the Badgers +3. Made some money on that one for sure. FanDuel's where we go for all of our action. And right now, there's a great offer. There's $150 waiting for you. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 moneyline bet. So your team wins, you get $150 in bonus bets to throw out there on the Niners, on Brock, Montana. Just a great way to kind of push that piggy bank forward. Again, props, futures, spreads, over-unders. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, kick off the NFL season. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon, kick off the NFL season. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the NFL. All right, Justin, let's really quickly, and if you're in the chat, I want your thoughts on this as well. Does this game change how you look at this team?
It confirms a little bit more how I look at this team. You and I have a difference in opinion on this team, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I thought offensively they did look good against Tennessee and Providence. I thought the bigger issues there were defensively. They looked out of sorts, and that the effort level wasn't always there. And when they ratchet up the defense, they're really, really difficult team to deal with. And when you have 5 guys on the floor that can score, it makes it tough for teams to defend you. That's a recipe for success when you don't. We may not have a guy who's capable of truly going off for 30 on this team, but you have a lot of guys that are capable of going for 15 plus. And that makes it really hard to pinpoint who you're going to defend. You basically have to have everybody locked in, or you're going to give something up. And we saw it. Go ahead.
I think your point there is correct. And just in terms of how difficult it can be to defend a team that has 5 legitimate options that can do something. Like every player in the starting lineup and Blackwell coming off the bench can score relatively easily in some area of the court. Some of them in multiple areas. But I think that the issue I have with this team is still there. I think there's a depth issue. I think I only trust 6 guys to score. If there's one injury on this team, I think we're in big trouble. There's deeper teams out there that as the season goes on, injuries happen. And then I still worry, like, I don't think we're a good shooting team. I mean, again, we shot 25% today from 3, and that's with Klesmit hitting 5 of 10. Mm-hmm. Like, until that cleans itself up, I think there's going to be games where we score 52 or 55 or 61. Not in the 50s, but low 60s, I'll say, just because we're not going to be able to shoot.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting to see how that plays out going forward, especially in Big Ten play, because the issue, I think, and you might be right on that, but I just don't think the Big Ten is very good this year. Like, we've had all these years where we thought they were really good. I think it's down this year. And I legitimately look at it, like, if Wisconsin plays like this, there's 2 teams in the entire league that I'm truly, like, scared of. Michigan State when they're playing right, and Purdue. Those are the only 2 teams I look at that I'm like, okay, they can overpower us to an extent. And even Michigan State, I think that's a pretty much a pick-em game for me for the most part. But I think we're more efficient than them because they lean heavily on Walker as a scorer for them. Yeah. So if he's not carrying them, they're in trouble. Purdue is just, I don't know what you do with Edey. Nobody does. Like, if you can find a way to neutralize him, they're pretty pedestrian overall, but that's easier said than done.
No, and I do want to give you credit though, Justin. You did say in the chat, it wasn't on a show, but you said before this game you thought we would beat Marquette. And I said, no, I don't think so at all. So I do want to give you credit on that. You did call this one, and I would be remiss if I didn't give you your flowers there. This is a great game. Like, nothing when I say I'm not trying to dismiss what happened in this game. Like, this is a awesome win. I'm like, I was stoked about it. I'm cheering. Like, I hate losing to Marquette. They look great. If they can play this way every game, I agree with you. I'm just not sure because we haven't seen that defensive consistency every game. We haven't seen this aggressive version of Crowl and Wall every game. And we have seen worse shooting games. So, like, if this is who the Badgers are, then I agree with you. This team could make a pretty good run in March. I'm just not sure if this is who we are every game.
I think the way I look at this, I was thinking about it, and I thought kind of the Milwaukee Bucks the year they won the title when there was a lull with them right before they went to the playoffs, and Giannis said, we need to stop playing with our food. Wisconsin's doing a little bit of that. Like, offensively, the metrics are really good in the games where it's tighter than it probably should, like a Robert Morris. But defensively is where it kind of like the effort level shrinks a little bit there. So you're just carving up teams and not necessarily putting in the effort to just blow them out and blow them off the court. That needs to turn on. And that's the difference between March and this and the Big Ten and the non-con against a weaker opponent. Like, you're more locked in when you're playing those games. I need to see it when they do it in the Big Ten to prove that we'll do it. I think it will be there if they make it to March, which I think we agree this is a March team.
Oh yeah,
like they're going to the tournament for sure.
Yeah.
Seeding wise will depend on how much effort they want to give during the regular season. It will really be, honestly, if these guys want to dive all in on this, they could be a 25-win team. They're going to have to bust their butt to do it, but they are capable of being that level of team. I don't know what that means in terms of a seeding. I would guess top 5 if they end up with that type of record. But, yeah, I think they're capable of that. I think they're capable of 5 seed in the NCAA.
I'll tell you, if you could tell me, if we want to paint the optimistic picture, and I know you mentioned Elite 8 as a possible, like not as a, but as 8 that could be.
If they're playing clean and right. Well, they're capable of making the Elite.
Right. I don't want to like paint it as like this is a lock, but
this is not like the 15 and 14 teams where they were just capable of just blowing teams off the court.
But I will say this: if you have good injury luck, and if for the love of gosh, if we could get something from Connor Essegien. Like at some point, we may have to just say this is a wash season. I'm not there yet, but if those 2 things could happen, I agree with you. This team could be an Elite 8 type of team, but you're going to need something from Connor at some point. That's the other part of this. And this was another game where he had a couple looks. I thought there was a moment where, by the way, again, if you hear footsteps, my 4-year-old is like just wandering around my room now. But like that's a key. You have to get something because otherwise you don't have a shooter come off the bench other than Blackwell. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I don't know what the answer there was with Connor at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, you would really like to have Connor because doesn't that feel like a March moment where like he comes in off the bench and drills like 4 threes and you're like, oh my God, That's what teams need at that point of the season.
He could be a Grayson Allen type of impact, not the same player, but that type of guy who comes off the bench and gives you 12 in 15 minutes.
It's a Duye Dukin.
Yeah.
Like Duye Dukin was a guy who was capable. No, but I mean, he was a guy who's capable on the 2014, 2015 teams that would come in and hit 3 threes. And you're like, this is all he does. He's effectively out there just to be a stretch 4 and hit threes.
He's got to do it though. I don't know. I do want to put this up from Ken P. You can kind of tell Storr wants to play faster, suits his game, but he's playing within the UW system. And when he's comfortable, look out. I think it's starting to get better. So on this one, I think early in the year to even now, you see the difference in Storr's game. It's a little more under control. He looks better defensively. He had a couple highlight moments today, and he had a couple where he was just an inch or two off from another highlight moment. I think it's starting to click here with Storr, which I think is really friggin' exciting.
Yeah, it's the interesting thing with him is yes, he may want to play faster, but for his development long term, this is what he needs if he wants to become a productive player at the NBA level. If he gets to that level, because half court basketball, you have to be able to do something in the NBA, or you will be gone. Like you can't just be a guy who's a rim runner, because if that's all you can do as a undersized small forward or as a big shooting guard, you're going to have to be able. You're just not going to play. Like he's got to learn to be a half court player, and Wisconsin's a good place for it. They're going to ask you to move. They're going to ask you to give you some ISO here and there, but they're not going to make you nothing but ISO. So, because I don't know about you, I look at him. I don't see a guy who's going to be like we're talking about a 10-time All-Star at this point. I think he's capable of making it to the NBA, but I don't see that level of skill level yet with him. And because of that, he's going to have to be a guy who learns how to do the little things in order to keep himself there if he does get himself to that level.
I see somebody, I think it was, I'm trying to remember, it was Peyton Manning or maybe it was Drew Brees talking about this, but they said, the athletic young quarterbacks, they never develop the pocket poise because they can always scramble. Mm-hmm. And Storr has a little bit of that in his game. He's always been so athletic that he's never really developed some finer nuance of his game. So to that point, I think dead on, like coming to Wisconsin is going to be good for him. There's still moments I wish you can, I think it's going to clean up as the season goes on, but there's moments the ball gets swung to him. He's wide open, shoot the ball. Like there's still moments it's not, you can tell he's thinking too much. There's 2 or 3 spots in this game. And bro, you shot 40% from 3 last year.
Yeah.
They swung the ball to you ready to shoot. And he's a little slow on his shot. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yeah. He doesn't have the, and that's something he's going to have to, I don't want to say it because like we've seen so many guys go to the NBA and just their shot gets destroyed because they tell them they need to be, they tell them they need to be quicker. And it's like, okay, you can be quicker or you can just take the shots that are good shots. Like if you want a guy to be leaned on as a go-to scorer and a guy who's going to be your linchpin on the offensive end, yes, you probably have to have a guy who's capable of being able to rip off shots with a defender in their face. Storr's probably not going to be that guy in the NBA. He's probably going to be a guy that's going to come off screens, get looks where he's not going to have the fastest stroke. Like that's the guy you want is the 6'4" guy who is just a sharpshooter. And why don't try to turn him into something he's not. Like you're going to get by on athleticism with him. Even at the NBA level, he's going to be a guy who's got solid athleticism. So he's going to be able to do some things. Don't wreck his game and take his jump shot completely away, trying to turn it into something that you think is slightly better than what it currently is.
I just want to throw this out there, Justin. I think I sent it to you if I did. Has anyone seen what the Wizards did to Johnny Davis's shot? And listen, it's not like he was Reggie Miller coming out, but it looks.
It's got a funky off to the side.
He starts to the side, moves it up. Yeah. Screw the Wizards, man. I'm not saying Davis would have been an all-star if he went somewhere else, but that's a death sentence going to that organization.
Well, did you see that Decker responded to it, talking about how people mess with shots?
No, I didn't.
Saying that somebody at Wisconsin told him to change his, and he goes, "Yeah, I wish I'd never done that." And Decker was a pretty darn good shooter as a prep player.
And Jason Nowns says Decker on Twitter said changing his shot after his freshman year was his biggest regret.
Yeah.
And we talked about Nigel Hayes. I talked to Vito Brown was on the show, and I asked him specifically about Nigel Hayes' shot. And it's funny. Vito said Nigel changed his shot every year. It was never. So, yeah.
The Final 4 years, the best I saw it look. He had a nice high release. It wasn't fast, but he was never in danger of getting blocked. Like he had long arms. Just continue to have that high release. You'll be fine.
No, I agree.
He wasn't going to be a guy who was going to be jacking up 15 shots a game in the NBA if he made it. He was going to be a guy who was going to take 5.
All right, we're going to take one more quick break. Come back. We'll just wrap up your comments. Justin, if there's any comments you want to get to, I know you've started a couple. But yeah, if there's any comments you want to get to, I want to get into that. But one more quick break for friends of the show, and a quick second to say thank you to I hear my son. Hopefully, can you guys hear the Legos coming through the microphone? I apologize, but my 4-year-old's playing Legos. It is what it is. It's super great, actually.
Get it, little dude.
I'm going to go do it when I'm done here with them. So on Wisconsin, thank you so much for listening to the show and joining it. And let's just keep on with all your comments. Mike does have a good question. Where's Bo Dragon? Where's the fire guard guy here?
That'd be great after a top 3 win.
Fire guard, not good enough. Mike says, I do want to talk about this. Mike says Johnny Davis should have never left. He wasn't ready for the NBA, in my opinion. If you can go be a lottery pick, you gotta go. Unless you love college,
I think the bigger issue is that he should have believed in himself and maybe not listened to the voices telling him he needed to change things as much, and just trying to refine what he had. Because there's always going to be somebody that tells you they can fix your shot and do whatever. And if you're lucky, you have somebody who's $1 million coach that, they're capable of trying to fine tuning things. It's kind of like a pitcher in baseball. Like for the longest time, they wanted to have guys that they would change their mechanics and be like, oh, you need to throw this way. Mm-hmm. And what they found out is all they ended up doing is wrecking pitchers. Then after a while, they're like, well, what can we clean up on your current delivery to make it work better?
You guys remember Sean Marion, who had the ugliest jump shot?
But he hit it at a high enough rate. It was 35% or something like that.
Nobody messed with it, and he's a borderline Hall of Fame guy. Yeah. Sometimes
as an energy guy for the most part. Mm-hmm. He was not a high level scorer. The greatest. I was at a shooting clinic once back when I was coaching, and one of the greatest things I've heard about shooting was this shooting guru. He literally, that's all he does. He said, everybody has kind of a unique shot, and think of it as a path in a snow-covered field, right? And every time they're going to walk that same path because it's already been walked, it's beaten down, it's easier. And if you try to adjust their shot, you're moving them off that path, and invariably, no matter what, they're going to come back to that path because it's easy. Mm-hmm. So they don't make them the perfect form jump shooter, make them the best jump shooter they can with their current form, is what he said. And there's truth in that. Obviously, there's adjustments you can make, but there's a certain point where if you start jacking with form, it never gets fixed. All right, let's get some comments in here. Sorry, I didn't mean to go down that trail. So let's get this one in here. Did Ryan's son watch the game today? I'm going to go ahead and guess as a 4-year-old, probably not a whole lot.
Negative. That is a hard pass. And honestly, at that age, you don't necessarily want your son watching the game with you because you want to focus on the game.
Yeah. I want to put this one up here because we kind of hit this. Good D, make free throws, hit open shots, and low turnovers equal Badger basketball. This year, free throws have been a bugaboo for this team for a long time. And this year, it appears they have the guys that are capable of it. And I think some of that is contagious. If you have a group of guys who are high-level shooters from a free throw line, I think it helps some of the other guys, unless you're just an absolute train wreck. But the thing is you looked at Wall and you looked at Crowl, and in certain seasons they were good. And so you look at it when they get around other guys who are hitting, it feels like they just get more locked in because they don't want to be the guy who's going to be the one to miss. And this year those two have been really good from the line.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about the defense too, because that's Ryan's first point on here. The defense was spectacular in moments today, especially so here's the thing though. Some of that Marquette missed some open threes. They really did. There were some pretty clean looks, but inside the 3-point line, the defense was suffocating. They played Marquette in that first half got nothing easy. They missed some open threes, but for the most part, once they drove in, I thought the switching was incredible. Defense, high hands, great intensity, forcing turnovers, forcing tough fadeaways. Yeah. It was a spectacular defensive performance in the first half.
And after the initial burst in the second half, they cleaned it up too. There were a couple of times off of screens that Marquette ended up getting some easy looks, and they cleaned that up right away. So, getting locked in on that is so important. They're going to cause a lot of teams, if they play defense at this level, to get frustrated with them and to force them into bad shots, because it's going to be really hard to find clean looks close to the rim. And what you're going to find is a lot of the teams that are really good teams, that's what they're used to being able to do. They're used to being able to go downhill and attack because most of them have athletes that want to go to the rim. And I don't know how many teams that are capable out there of just winning from the 3-point line this year. We haven't seen any truly great shooting teams, I don't think.
Robert Morris almost did it to us.
Well, good Lord. So some of those were tough shots, though.
I agree. I'm just saying That's the weirdness with the 3-point shot. Like any given night, a team can get hot.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. I think the other thing I say with the defense is you start looking at the personnel and you put out a Blackwell, Wall, Storr, Klesmit. There are really versatile, athletic.
Storr, by the way, much better since the beginning of the season.
I agree. And then Klesmit and Wall are super solid. Blackwell plays hard defense. He got back cut a couple times today.
Yeah.
Freshman
I caught that one. I'm like, man, you're just out of position.
That happens.
And he tried to recover on it and get his hand in there and break up the pass, but yeah.
But my bigger point is you have multiple guys now that can guard tough wings who can switch 1 through 3, even 1 through 4. Wall can switch 1 through 4, and you're okay with it. You wish this team had like a little bit more rim protection, like a backup 5 that could come in like a boat. But
shot blocker.
Aside from that, it's really good defensively. Justin, who's your MVP today?
Honestly, I think it all starts with Chucky. And I say that because they needed somebody like him to kind of be the calming influence with this team. Because when Marquette made their run, it very easily things could have just spiraled out of control. And Chucky kind of tends to not force, like this year, especially now that he's not required to do as much offensively, does not put himself into tough shots very often. There was the one bad shot where it's late in the shot clock where he took the step back that I was like, I don't love that shot, but what are you going to do? Like you had to put something up. Other than that, for the most part, he's very under control and he's kind of getting everyone where they needed to be on the court and making good decisions. And Marquette is a pressure team. Having a guy like that that's capable of just handling the pressure is such a huge deal because Marquette was probably getting very frustrated on defense, trying to get us to make mistakes, and Chucky just wasn't going to let him do it.
Yeah, that's a good call on Chucky. Brian Dodson says rebounding is what won the game. Ryan Bolt says Kles was the MVP this game. Greg Lincecum says Wall. I'm going to go with Crowl, actually. So I think this speaks to your point, though, Justin. When you start talking about depth on this team, you can point to Klesmit, you can point to Chucky, as you did. I'm going to go with Crowl. Greg, friend of the show, is going with Wall. I just think Crowl gave us such a consistent inside presence that his
rebounding has really improved this year, by the way, too.
Yeah. And he put pressure. It's nice to see an aggressive post move, Stephen Crowl, too, because at times he's so passive down there, right? We've talked about it. He wasn't that passive today. Like he was aggressive when it called for it. He still makes the right passes, the right decisions. You can tell Marquette isn't caught in a weird spot. They weren't really sure how they wanted to handle Crowl at times. They doubled occasionally. They hedged occasionally. He's a tough one because he makes good passes out of the double. I'll say this, in the first half, Justin, I don't know if you caught this. There was a point where Chucky on the right side of the court threw a bounce pass into Carter Gilmore in the post, and Marquette doubled him. And then Marquette that's one of the questions.
I can just see Shaka Smart just
and I'm just like, I wouldn't even guard him in the
You just put the folding chair out there.
I was like, okay, thank you. You deserve to give up 3 points for that. I'm sorry. Mike, let's talk about Blackwell. Mike Blackwell's kind of quiet today. A couple questions on Nolan Winter as well, Justin. What do you think of Blackwell and Winter, the two freshmen today?
I mean, this is a game where here's the deal with the freshmen. These guys are feeling their way out. They're going to be hit or miss with what they do out on the court because while I really love Blackwell's game, there's a lot of strong personalities on the team. There's a lot of leadership on this team of older guys. If this was a younger team, Blackwell would probably be more present in an every game situation. He's not being asked to do that. So what he's being asked to do right now is to make the simple, easy play that's available to him out there. If it's there, take it. If it's not, don't. And we will see him grow as his career goes on at Wisconsin, but he didn't need to do too much today. And that's fine. Like if it's there, he probably would, like he could have put 15 up today if he would have had opportunities to, but he's not that type of player. He's not the guy that's going to go out there and just jack up shots for the sake of doing it. Winter is a guy who right now is finding his way. And what you're looking for him is small victories while he's out there on the court. I don't expect him to be a huge scorer. I want to see him make some steps, play strong defense in terms of effort. Show that he's kind of got, because he's going to be a guy that's going to get beat occasionally on defense because he's just young. He doesn't have the strength yet. So what you want to do is you want to see him fight because come the NCAA tournament, they're going to need him to probably give spot minutes if Crowl gets in foul trouble. And he's got to be able to go out there and prove that he can at least fight against somebody to not let them have easy looks. If that's the case, great. I think his scoring may pick up a little in the second half of the season, but I don't think if you're expecting him to be a guy who's going to get us 6-7 points a game, I don't think that's happening this year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I would like to see with Winter, 1 or 2 moments a game where he just throws his body in there.
Yeah.
And just says,
he's more athletic than the guy that's defending him. He needs to kind of put him in a blender a little bit.
I think he could do a few things and just listen. I'm not going to play a lot. I have 5 fouls to burn. Let me rotate over hard and try to block a shot, or let me dive in there and try to get an offensive rebound. You would like to see that a few times, but I'm fine with Winter. This year's kind of we're going to get the feet wet. You're going to get
it's a growth year. Yep.
Blackwell, even in a quieter game, that drive he had off kind of the left baseline,
the spin,
around under control,
such good instincts.
Didn't pick how many guys. So here's the thing: the underrated part of that move, Justin, is so many freshmen do that and they just barrel over somebody to pick up a charge. He stops, pivots, bank glass,
or they don't have the touch to complete the shot.
Beautiful shot. Like that right there. That's a highlight clip, and that's going to go in the library. And someday an NBA scout's going to look at that and say, "Yeah, I like this guy." Mm-hmm. I'm in love with his game. Yeah. I'm absolutely
spun away from the double because there was a guy coming in the baseline. Yeah, he does so many things that are just instincts with him. And 4 for 4 from free throw. So he had 6 points today?
Yeah, I think so.
He's a true freshman. Like that's fine. Like I don't expect more from him with the minutes that he's playing. 5-6 points. If you look at that on a per level, he's through the roof. Like he didn't play a ton today. He had foul trouble.
He is a way above the freshman learning curve. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Well, I know in this one, Ryan Bolt says, I love Gilmore. Not a great player, but Gard has to play him good D, smart fouls, no turnovers, gets boards. He's kind of the security blanket for a few minutes.
And he's zero usage. Like he doesn't require the ball ever.
Yeah. If he's playing a couple minutes a game, like the energy he gives you is worth it. Everything we've talked about is still true. He is tough to play offensively for long stretches. But listen, if you're going to double him in the post, like Marquette did on that occasion, unbelievable, man. If I was a coach, because coaches aren't dumb.
I just picture that Shaka Smart going into the tape room and being like, just pausing it and staring at the guy who made the mistake, just not saying anything.
Just take his scholarship and just into the portal, sir. Anyway, Justin, any last thoughts on this game before we wrap it up?
This is a huge win. This is a development one for the Badgers in terms of their overall confidence as a team. As this season goes on, this team, if they can get mentally to understand what they're capable of game in and game out, the sky's the limit for them. Like they can beat anyone on a given day. And if they're going to learn, like, hey, you got Michigan State next, they can definitely handle Michigan State if they play well. Like now you have some confidence that you just took down a Marquette team, go and take out a Michigan State team. And then who knows? Now you maybe are making Arizona a little uncomfortable with what you're coming in with, because you're a team that's proven that you can hang with the better teams in the country.
Yeah, for me, it's just about the consistency, which I think is similar to what you're saying. This is the same team to me we talked about before the show that didn't look good at all against Providence, that had to kind of battle against Robert Morris. I just want to see them stack up consistency. And if they do that, I think it'd be really good. I'm not sold they can do that yet, though. So TBD.
3 in a row at least.
TBD, but listen, this is a great win. This is a huge resume win. This is a huge seeding win. This is a win to get stoked about. We'll end on this. There was a comment about rushing the court. I have no issues with rushing the court. I know that we had a comment that said
with the way this team has had the last couple of years, I think that this is a victory that you can go out there, especially in a rivalry game. This is such a big deal for this team because they have had a few years away. I realize they won the Big Ten a few years back, but there's a difference between what the ceiling is of this team and what that even the Johnny Davis team was. Like the Johnny Davis team was heavily reliant on Johnny, and if he got banged up at all, scoring was going to be a problem.
Which we saw.
Yeah. This team is capable of having somebody be at 80% and still being really good offensively, because there's enough guys that are capable of actually doing things without needing to be put in perfect situations to score.
So it was Ken P with the comment. And Ken, thank you for the comment. He said, how about storming the floor? Thought that was not necessary. Nice win, but not that nice. I would just say, and to each their own. I would just say sports are supposed to be fun. Storm the court. I don't know. Like I don't have a huge issue with it, partially because just what you said, it's been a couple of years where this team hasn't had a lot of big wins, especially at home in the Kohl Center. Mm-hmm. But I'm also just like, I don't know, if I was a student, I would storm it.
Oh yeah.
I'd have fun with it. I don't know. That's where I'm at. It is the number 3 team in the country. Like it is a rivalry game.
Mm-hmm. This is going to be a shot fired across the college basketball landscape. Like Wisconsin wasn't ranked coming into this game, and they, for the most part, handled Marquette.
Yeah.
So this is going to be, it's a big win. Like, I understand them wanting to rush for this.
This is awesome. It's a good day for me. Come on in here, buddy. Get up on that line.
We'll wrap it there.
Is that guy had to go door to door yet and tell all his neighbors that he's moved into the neighborhood?
We'll wrap it there. Wisconsin beats Marquette in a big rivalry game where they really controlled it. Thank you, Justin, over at the Bucky Report. I am Ryan Herring. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. On Wisconsin, have a great, fantastic, incredible weekend.